From here, let's come to the state of Punjab with its 13 Lok Sabha seats, where you've got the Aam Aadmi Party doing very well. You've got the AAP, which romped home in style in the assembly elections a few months ago. At 11 seats, you've got the Congress at 2, you've got the NDA at 0. So in Punjab, you've got the Aam Aadmi Party doing very well, and that is interesting because they picked up 4 seats in 2014. Since then, it looked like a downward spiral for the AAP. Now it looks as if it's picking up once again.
But then take the next state, and then you'll see the complications of it. Delhi, 7 seats on offer. As per the Mood of the Nation poll done by C Voter, if Lok Sabha elections held today, NDA wins all 7. Now think about it. Here is a state where AAP has swept every Vidhan Sabha, the last 2 Vidhan Sabha elections, once getting 69 out of 70, then 67. Either way, the moment you go to a Lok Sabha election, the entire narrative changes.
But this also shows you how inept and incompetent the Delhi BJP is, that despite riding on so much momentum, they can't even turn that into a victory, either in an MCD or in an assembly election.
Sure, but Rahul Srivastav, this is a recurring theme, isn't it now, in the last decade, that where Mr. Modi is not on the ticket, the BJP faces a challenge, it declines, especially state elections almost by 10-12%. But where he is on the ticket and where it becomes a national election, that even in Delhi, where AAP has swept to major victories, in the Lok Sabha, 7 out of 7 is what we are predicting. What does that say? Is the Indian voter voting very differently again, national versus state election, irrespective that inflation affects us all the time?
See, Rajdeep, I think inflation and other does get incorporated when the leaders make mistake. In India, price rise and employment, these are the pad-up kind of issues.
You take it for granted almost.
It
they are
comes
factored
later.
in.
If I'm angry with somebody, then I say price rise bahut zyada hai. I don't say price rise as the mainstay of my opposition to a leader.
So you are saying that until anger builds up against a leader, I don't reflect price rise as unemployment as the core issue.
What is very important is, I think the people are looking for leaders, what they stand for. A Kejriwal, a Mamata Banerjee, what Raj was saying, a Mamata Banerjee, a Modi. See, and then what kind of leadership they have in the state and the cadres. Bihar, the BJP has not been able to build inroads into newer demographies as they would have earlier.
No, but the Bihar BJP will turn around and say, "Mauka hi nahi diya na." The local leadership will say, "Arey, aapke hamare upar bithaya hua hai JDU ko mauka to do. We all ready and raring to go."
But Rahul, this is the fascinating thing about Indian elections. 2014 and 19, in both these elections, BJP swept Delhi. 6 months later, only state elections are held, and Arvind Kejriwal emerges. And 2024 seems to be no different if these numbers are true. The next state, though, is fascinating. Because remember, Mamata Banerjee is seen in some quarters, or perhaps in TMC certainly, as a potential challenger. If not 24, then 29. If Lok Sabha elections were held today, and this is another turnaround, Rahul, compared to 2019, NDA gets 7, UPA doesn't open its account, and others, which is Mamata essentially, is 35. Mamata got just about half the seats in 2019, the BJP got 18. So BJP is down 7. So they are down 11, remember, in Bengal. They are down by about almost 20 in Maharashtra. And they are down by another almost 20 in Bihar. So these are the 3 red flags. The red flags for the BJP at the moment are West Bengal, Mamata still carrying on with the momentum, and in Maharashtra and Bihar. So these are the... So therefore the BJP will have to make up these losses in other states. You mentioned Telangana as one state where they will make up loss. I still want to see where else will the BJP make up.
We'll go
so
state
therefore,
by state.
Rahul, compared to 2019, remember 2019 NDA is over 350. Already based on August 10th, we are saying they are down to 286. So while we are saying there is no major anti-incumbency against Mr. Modi, there are some warning signals in specific states. I think is a worrying point.
Well, ultimately, they just need to be above the finishing mark to be able to come back to power.
Sure, but I think 286 is a worrying number. I don't know whether Manisha Priyam, you agree with that, but there's a sense I get looking at state-wise, the BJP has certain states it will have to look closely at, and the opposition has opportunities. The opposition has to stop the BJP now in South and West so that the BJP can't make extra gains.
So I think that is also the BJP's biggest opportunity. If something like price rise was an issue when the Congress government was in power, and the BJP was in the streets, the BJP was able to turn it into an issue. Remember the number of rallies with, malas of onions and, their cadres coming out into the streets. The fact is, there are pan-India issues that may not be of the making of this government, that may be because of global recession, but the fact is that there is no pan-India opposition that is taking these issues to the streets. There is also a trust factor in Mr. Modi. As you can see yourself when you're talking about Delhi, for example, vote for the BJP, 6 months later bring in Arvind Kejriwal. In Jharkhand, vote for the BJP, bring in Mr. Modi, 6 months later vote out Mr. Raghuvar Das, even bring in a coalition government of the discredited Congress and the JMM, but have a different government.